attendance cards on February 14th than anyone else in his class. The sparkling blue eyes, the cute little nose, and the perfectly coiffed hair were, everyone had to admit, irresistible. John graduated from Bowdoin in June 1969. Later that year, he took a job teaching and coaching at Canterbury School in Connecticut and began an independent school career that continues to this day.
John, what I'm going to say to you is it's not goodbye, it's I'll see you on the first tee.
Welcome John's big brother, Cal Mackenzie, and his wife, Sally.
I was asked to talk about John, Kelly, Missouri, and why don't we give it up for the Missouris and all the volunteers. Kelly said, I want you to cover a lot of stuff. I want to talk about John, his life, and everything, and you have 4 minutes. Which, if you know John, is plenty of time. I knew John 30 years ago. I was an administrator in the summer program at Milton Academy, which was referenced here in the video. And I was basically the AD of the summer program, the athletic director for high school kids, and most of our programs were done by 5 o'clock, and we get some interns together. They were 19 or 20, I was about 24, I'm about 10 years younger than John. And we would play basketball. We played pickup basketball, and John would come down because he lived on campus, because he had no friends but school people, and so he lived on campus. He'd come down and he'd play with us. And at first he would show up, and a lot of my friends who were a little younger would go, man, who's the old guy? And at this point, I only knew John as a principal. I never played with him. But after the first game, it became clear that John was a force to be reckoned with in basketball. And so there was always this dilemma of playing against him or playing with him. And a lot of us wanted to play on his team. In fact, when it came down to pick teams, most of us sort of clung to his legs like frightened children, hoping that somebody would put us on his team. It has been a privilege. It remains a continued privilege to be on John's team. I can say to this day that I will never be half the basketball player John Mackenzie was. But I will work the rest of my life, professionally and personally, to be half the man John Mackenzie is. And I want to toast you, John, and say you are the most remarkable boss.
I thought I would share with you tonight why my brother became an independent school teacher. He, when he was a senior at Bowdoin, and we used to talk a lot about things at that point in our lives, whenever either one of us was facing some big set of decisions. He went down to interview for a public school teaching job on a little island in Maine called Bailey Island. And he was interviewed there by the school board. All 3 of them, all fishermen, all named Johnson. And they went through the usual set of interviews and asked him about his teaching philosophy and his background, his experience, and all of that. And I thought things were going pretty well. And then one of them looked him in the eye and said, well, let me ask you a question here, young man. He says, do you teach that the world is round or the world is flat? John looked up and down, the 3 of them, trying to figure out what the local orthodoxy might have been on that particular question. Finding none, he thought for a minute and finally answered, he said, doesn't matter much to me, I teach it either way. Well, that was the end of his public school career. Whatever happened to that guy anyway? Well, I think you know what happened to that guy, and so do I. He's had a long and fruitful career as an independent school teacher and leader. I think he would have been very happy, actually, all these 40-plus years to have been a classroom teacher. He loved being in the classroom. He loved teaching kids. He loved challenging young people. For him, that was always the core of the enterprise. But John went on to other things, and as you know, some of them brought him here. Everywhere he went, and his career took him to some of the best schools in the country, people saw in John a leadership potential, and they asked him to take on ever larger responsibilities. He was a department chair, a head coach, an upper school head, creator of an upper school, and then for 23 years, the head of the school. A long resume full of growth, full of accomplishment. But what's important about my brother is not all the things he's done, but the way he's done them. The work he's done is not just about balancing budgets or filling the entering class or keeping the lawn mowed or resisting the pressure from his son to call off school on snowy days. What's really mattered to John is making sure that every student is well taught and well respected, that the uniqueness of every individual is prized and encouraged, that good teachers are given all the support they need to become great teachers. For him, that's what mattered. There's a theory of management called MBWA, management by walking around. And that's always been John Mackenzie's management style. Be the first one at school every day, talk to everyone, meet the students when they arrive, call them by name, learn their interests, share their enthusiasms. How many games has John attended in his career? How many student art or science projects has he visited? Or how many plays or concerts has he been in the audience leading the applause? Who could count? As many of you know, our mother passed away last spring. She chose to move to Columbus when John took the job here. She said so she would be close to Scott when he was growing up, and that was terribly important to her. But I know there was more to it than that she wanted to be close to John too, so that she could share the rich experience she knew he was going to have at Columbus Academy. She always felt a part of this school, and it was one of the happiest associations of her life. And after she died last spring, we were cleaning out things in her apartment, and we found some papers that she had saved about her sons. You know, parental love gets expressed in many ways, but some of it's never spoken. And when you sit down and read through the things your mother saved from the paper record of your life, you get a unique sense of what she valued in her children. And among the things she had saved were a number of the columns that John had written on the inside cover of the Columbus Academy magazine. I know John has written dozens of those, maybe more than 100 since he's been here. But it was interesting to me which ones she kept. The ones she kept were the ones where John wrote about values. The values that constitute the core of a quality education, the values that he so wanted the Columbus Academy community to share. His enduring belief in the importance of building a faculty and a student body diverse in gender and race and ethnicity. He believes deeply that the only way that different people learn to live together is simply to live together. That we find it easiest to accept those who are different from us when we come to know them personally and deeply, and not merely as categories. That the difference among us should be opportunities to build bridges, not walls. John believes that a great school must pursue the highest standards in the quality of teaching and expectations for learning. And in high school, John and I had a coach who used to tell us before difficult games that we would probably have to play better than we knew how. Challenge. In his work as an educator, John has always sought to create an environment in which everyone would strive to teach better, to learn better, to think better than they knew how. Knowing how, in his view, was always a dynamic concept, one that ought never to stop expanding. And then there's John's commitment to fairness, the understanding that conflict is natural in any institution, and the best approach is always the one that carefully considers every perspective, treats everyone with respect and courtesy, and comes to decisions based solely on a thoughtful weighing of the merits. Tolerance, high standards, decency, fairness, those were the ideals captured in the columns that my brother wrote and my mother saved. Those were the values our parents tried to teach us. Those were the only measures by which they ever judged us. And I know that Mom and Dad are somewhere watching tonight, smiling brightly, full of pride for all that John has accomplished, but much more importantly, that he has always sought to live and to lead by the values that mattered so much to them. And I must tell you, it's a pride and the love that I share. I've had many blessings in my life, but none greater than this man, who has so often been my teammate, my partner, my friend, my advisor, and a pretty damn good brother. Now, don't tell him anything I said here, because he'll never let me forget it.
For those of you that don't know me, I'm Eric Hunter. I'm one of the 2 assistant heads at the school. I'm keeping it a little lighthearted because when I do talk about John, I get pretty emotional because he's been a terrific friend, a mentor, a leader at the school. And obviously, as an alum of the school, I've seen a lot happen at Columbus Academy over 35 years. And as I tell new parents every year, thankfully, the school has raised its admission standards from when I was admitted 35 years ago. But it is a much, much better school today than it was when I was there, and so much of why it's so good today is because of John and the folks that have been part of his team, as Dan had mentioned earlier. And one thing I just want to share with you, and I am going to be brief, and we're going to keep this moving. Every year, each faculty and staff person at the school receives a letter of reappointment. It's sort of independent school business, right? You get an annual contract every year. John takes the time on all 180 of those letters of reappointment to write many sentences to each of us about how much he appreciates the work that we do, how much we mean to the school, often some personal anecdotes in there. And I will tell you, if you ask any of the faculty and staff that are here tonight, many are here, which is a great tribute to John, that really means a lot to us. And I have saved all 14 copies of my letters of reappointment over my 14 years, and it's because of the note that John has written on there. It's on your tables is a little card that talks about the John Mackenzie Fund for Enlightenment and Enrichment. John's greatest passion is teaching. He is a stalwart defender and proponent of faculty and staff and making sure that we remain leading edge and that we get the professional development that we need. So the Board of Trustees has created this fund. There's a card on your table that you can fill out. If all 600 of us just did $100 tonight, put that card in those mailboxes, that would raise $60,000. That would mean at least 2 faculty members every year would get $3,000 each for professional development. So fill those cards out. It is my pleasure to introduce the person who bidded the highest and won the Mackenzie Minute. To have 1 minute to talk about John Mackenzie, and it's Mike Crane. Mike Crane, come on up.
Thanks, Eric. Yeah, I just thought I'd get involved in bidding on the Mackenzie Minute to help support the event and support the school. And I think it worked out. I feel good about it. There was kind of some frantic bidding at the end, and I think my eventual winning bid was $14.33. I feel that maybe the school could buy some extra pencils or maybe a pencil sharpener. But actually, I think I have the longest term connection to John of anybody at the school other than my wife, Paige, because it was Paige who flew to Worcester, Mass, 16 years ago. And when she came back that night, I wanted the lowdown, I wanted the scoop. And she, I said to her, what's the guy like? And she said, well, he's tall. And he's got like a Scottish last name. And I said, whoa, I think we're good to go. I think that's exactly what Academy needs. And of course, the rest is history. But I think also John and I are similar in our styles. I think maybe it's because we're, children of the 60s, sort of that peace, love, and harmony Woodstock generation. And I don't know if many of you know this, but John actually was in Woodstock the movie. And there he was, wearing just a funny-looking headband and a kilt, lying on the ground making mud angels. And I know a lot of you are thinking, that is so Mackenzie. It was not a very pretty sight. But to his credit, he could make a very big mud angel. And that certainly served him well over the years. But actually, John's got a pretty reserved style, and I was kind of surprised to see some frustration 2-3 weeks ago. We had a campaign cabinet at the school, and campaign cabinet meeting. We were in the trustees room, and you know how somehow when somebody at the back of the room or the side is talking, and you can see the courtyard, and there might be some activity in the courtyard, and everybody's focus shifts over there, and the person speaking gets a little irritated. That's silly, because you want to see what's going on in the courtyard. So John, there were 5 or 6 seniors out there, and one of them all of a sudden hopped up on that ledge, shimmied up a column, pulled himself up on the 2nd level, flipped over the railing, and like, I'm out of here in June, So John excused himself from the meeting and went out there and talked to the boys, and they went back in the room. But then what was funny, what's a little surprising, as John came back, he hopped up on that ledge, shimmied up that column, pulled himself up on the 2nd level, flipped over the railing and said, I'm out of here in June. It was surprising. I mean, he had that knee replacement surgery like a year ago, and I'm thinking to myself, I gotta get me one of those. But over John's 16 years, what was consistent is really, he always had a sense of humor, which is important. And number 2, in everything he did, he was driven by his love for the school, and that was obvious and evident in all that he did. And all that he did will have a deep and lasting impact on Columbus Academy, and for that we're grateful. Thank you, John.
First of all, I just want to say wow and thank you to so many people. I was very much kept in the dark about what was happening tonight, and has given very little information about this, and so there have been a lot of surprises and remarkable ones, and it's a little difficult, but I asked to have a couple minutes to say something, but it's a little difficult to say something at an event which you don't know what's going to happen. So if my comments don't connect with things, I'm sorry about that. And I apologize that for this blockage on the right side of the room. It's not the first time I've spoken out of both sides of my mouth. First of all, I just want to thank you all for coming tonight, and by coming tonight for what you are doing to support Columbus Academy, our faculty, our staff, and our students. So just thank you very much for making the commitment to coming in tonight. Thanks for all. I want to thank all the people who volunteered to put together this event, and the time and energy the committee put in. But most of all, I want to thank Kelly and David Vaziri for all that they have done. It's been my privilege to work under 9 terrific board presidents: John Finn, John York, the late George Corey, who George is smiling down on us somewhere tonight, has a Tootsie Pop in his mouth to keep from saying the wrong thing, I'm sure. George Corey, Paul Williams, Cheryl Kruger, Kevin Kelly, Tom Ciccone, Mike Ryan, and Poe Timmons, the 9 board presidents. And thanks so much to all of you. There will be other times and places this spring for me to thank the wonderful colleagues I have on the faculty and staff, and a terrific group of dedicated, committed, fun, enjoyable, intelligent people. And what a pleasure it has been to work with that faculty and staff. But I do want to single out 4 people who have worked in that little office right next to me and made me look better than I had a right to look. And for Sherry Buell and Carol Kitchen and Kathy Webner and Shannon Nelson, my assistants. Thank you. I can't tell you the number of times I have kind of put out an email or a call to Eric and Dan and said, can you guys join me in my office? I need your thoughts and your input on this. And I so thank what the 2 of you have done to advise me, to help me to serve the school in so many ways. And your counsel and friendship have been invaluable. And I can't thank you enough. I also want to single out one other person. As I said, I didn't know what to expect tonight, and so there have been some pleasant surprises, and one particular surprise was among the many people. There's been a lot of comments about Bowdoin College tonight, which some of you may actually have heard of. I turned around at one point tonight, and there was a gentleman named Andy Neer and his wife Dawn, who came here from Massachusetts. Andy was my freshman and senior year roommate at Bowdoin College. And he was also a basketball teammate of mine, so Andy knows that most of those stories that were told about basketball aren't true. Though there is one that is true, and that's that I did have some rebounding records, and Andy, I want to thank you for missing a lot of shots, so that I could have that record. I want to, of course, thank my family for being here tonight and for all their support, for Nate and Allie, Susan's kids, for coming down from Chicago. This is really a ruse. This is not a party for me, but yesterday was Nate's 25th birthday. So this is really Nate's party. To Jeremy and Dave and Lori and Lynn, I thank you immensely for being here. What a great surprise to see my sister-in-law Sally and my brother Cal here. It's a real risk to let somebody out of the Maine woods to come down to the lower 47 after a long winter. It's an even greater risk to let him have a microphone. And Cal, I thank you very much for your words. True story. In 2009, Cal was a finalist for a Pulitzer Prize in History. He and another gentleman co-authored a book. My understanding is that the co-author did the writing and the editing and the research, and Cal did the rest. But they actually won a Pulitzer, were finalists for a Pulitzer Prize in History, and Cal, I think after what you said tonight, you have a good chance for a Pulitzer Prize in Fiction. You, big brother, have always been my best teacher. You've been a great friend. You've been a great mentor. This is a great night, and it's greater because you were here. Okay, thank you for being here. So there are a lot of adults here tonight, and there's one kid, and that's my son Scott. I waited a little while to become a father. True story, there was a night in the fall of 1996 when I went into a Walgreens and I bought two things. I purchased two items. One was my first set of reading glasses, and the other was a book entitled What to Expect in Baby's First Year. So I waited a long time to be a dad, and Scott, you were all that I could have ever asked for in a son. And I know it's not always easy to be the headmaster's son and to have to do things like this. I am so proud of who you are and what you've become, and I hope you really enjoy your 2 years at Columbus Academy without me there, and hope it's a great time, and just don't mess up, I'm going to kick your butt from here to Cincinnati. Okay? And absolutely, I want to recognize my wife, Susie, who showed tonight, beyond other things, about her ability to keep a secret. Susie, you've seen me at some of my low days and some of my best days. You've shared that with me. It has been remarkable to have these last 8 years with you. And what good counsel you have given me. I don't know if everybody's aware that Susie's a teacher, and she's just an example, where she teaches in public school in Upper Arlington, of teachers everywhere who are incredibly hardworking, incredibly dedicated to kids, and incredibly, in your case, Susie, having this other job of being supportive of me. I am crazy in love with you. You own my heart, Lord, and I can't thank you enough. Just finally, come June 30th, when that moving van comes up, my career in teaching in schools will end, and it's been a pretty good deal that I got into when I was 21 years old. Every day, I drive up to a place that's a beautiful campus. I work with intelligent, caring adults who work very hard with wonderful, caring parents, and they are dedicated to producing healthy and happy young adults out of our boys and girls at Columbus Academy and the other schools I've been fortunate enough to work at. I want to clarify one thing. I am retiring from headmastering. I'm not retiring from life. Okay, I'm going to continue to be around we're staying in Columbus. As you may know, I'm going to work for a firm that does some consulting to independent schools, and once I find out how busy that's going to keep me, I want to do some other things to serve Greater Columbus, which has been so good to me. I heard a speech from somebody who was retiring a little while ago, and they said they had absolutely no regrets. Well, I do have some regrets. I have regrets about little things and decisions I could have made a little differently, or comments I could have made a little differently. I have no regrets about having chosen this path for my career. No regrets about spending a life in schools. It has been wonderful. It has been enriching. I've continued to learn. I hope I can continue to learn. But I want you all to know that I have absolutely no doubts and no regrets about the fact that if I had to do the last 16 years over again, I would absolutely do it nowhere else besides Columbus Academy. Thank you very much.